what's up you guys? Yes, I am back here again for another review for you all, and it is of First Man, the film directed by Damien Chazelle, who is one of my personal favourite directors. Don't tell Christopher Nolan. And it stars the amazing Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong, Claire Foy as Janet Armstrong, and Kyle Chandler, who is now surprisingly my new favourite crush, who plays Dyke Slayton. Now, First Man, as you can probably see from the trailers, it's basically the race to space and the first man to go onto the moon. Now, it's not so much centred around the moon and the moon landing per se. It does have, towards the end, it is kind of shown. However, it heavily focuses more on the events leading up to the sort of race to space and how it's affected Neil Armstrong. So my expectations leading into this film, of course, I had quite high expectations because I love Damien Chazelle. I love La La Land with just, it has a special place in my heart. I love that film to death. But I knew that this film would be very different to Whiplash and to La La Land. And I wasn't expecting like an upbeat, like happy thing, but I was kind of really intrigued to see what Damien Chazelle would do with this story and how different it will be compared to La La Land and compared to Whiplash. But I went in with quite a lot of expectations for this film, which I know I shouldn't do, but I just love Damien Chazelle, so I'm like, please give me something good. So the first thing that I want to touch upon is the cinematography. Now, the cinematographer was Linus Sandberg. I'm so sorry if I butchered that name, but he's worked with Damien Chazelle before on the film La La Land, but not on Whiplash, so they've already kind of got a relationship going of what kind of styles. Now, comparing La La Land though, however, and comparing First Man together, they're very different in their cinematography, and in some ways that is good, and then in other ways it's kind of hindered it a little bit. So the first good thing about this is I kind of like the aesthetics to it. Now, it kind of had that like filter on that made it look a little bit like old-fashioned, like a retro kind of film. It's like filmed on a film camera kind of aesthetic to it, which I really love, and I love films like that with Lady Bird and some other films that have that kind of aesthetic to it, and I really liked it, and it added to like the sort of the era, because it is in the 60s. It's added to it, and it makes it feel more nostalgic and more grounded in that world. But the only thing I do have to say about the cinematography is the camera work, it wasn't kind of good. And one person told me when I was making my own film that motion creates emotion. Now, in some scenes, that applies perfectly to First Man, and the motion of the camera does create emotion. Now, in some of the heightened scenes, like the first scene you're in, the camera plays so much in heightening the emotion and the intensity that it works. However, in other aspects, it kind of gets distracting. Now, it kind of felt to me a little bit sitcom-y, where it kind of, you know, when it does that dramatic zoom in, it's like, oh, zoom in when somebody makes a joke or they kind of do a derp face kind of thing. It kind of felt a little bit too sitcom for me, and it distracted me when it did the zoom ins and stuff, and it kind of, sometimes the camera just felt a little bit too frantic a little bit in scenes, so it just needed to be a little bit more calmer. So I was sitting through it going, ooh, I didn't like that, or ooh, that was a little bit too movie kind of thing. I didn't like it. But in some scenes, as I said, the motion of the camera did create emotion. Now, as for the acting side of First Man, I will say that Ryan Gosling is a powerful actor, and I do adore him, and I want him to be nominated for Best Actor. However, I don't think he's going to be a strong contender. Now, when you compare him to Bradley Cooper in A Star Is Born, I would say Bradley Cooper is a little bit better than this, but then I suppose I don't really know what Neil Armstrong is like, but he comes across as quite a cold, not cold, but kind of like shut off from his emotions, a very emotionless type person. And I think maybe that's kind of why I was kind of going, Ryan Gosling isn't acting as much in this, like, come on, but in fact he didn't really need to get into the characterization of Neil Armstrong. But I do think he was powerful in many scenes. Now, at the start of the film, it kind of pretty much is all in his eyes. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Tom Hardy in Dunkirk. It's very much focused on his eyes, And to be fair, he conveys a lot of emotions through his eyes, and you understand what he's feeling every single second, and he's only limited to really his eyes. And there's another scene where he's, spoiler, on the moon, and you don't even see his face, but there's something about it that you can picture what his face is doing right now. But there was something about like that scene in particular where I was going, I know exactly what face he's pulling behind his like visor thing. And I think that shows that he's very powerful as an actor in some scenes, but in other scenes he was very cold, and I don't think he's going to be a strong contender as many people are making out that he's going to be. But as for Claire Foy, now this could have just been kind of like a one note sort of acting, could have just been her like flailing about with all of her emotions, but in some of the scenes she is so powerful in this, and she holds her own, and it's kind of like a small part really, and it is a sporting role, but she plays such a heavy part in some of the scenes, and I kind of want her to be a contender for Best Supporting Actress in the Oscars, because I do think she kind of held her own, and she did just as much as the other people did, and it was very powerful. So my final thoughts on First Man is that I kind of was a little bit disappointed. Maybe it's because I went in with way too much expectations because of it being Damien Chazelle, that I was kind of like, this film is going to be amazing, and it was. In some scenes it was amazing. However, I just kind of was a little bit disappointed. Now, it is like my least favourite Damien Chazelle film, but he's only made 3, so it's not like he's only made 3, so it's not kind of like a big, oh my god, sort of like, it's at the bottom of the list sort of thing. But it just wasn't my favourite compared to the other ones. Maybe I feel a bit bad saying that because I do love Damien Chazelle. I don't want to give him hate. But the thing is, it kind of, if you've watched 2001: A Space Odyssey and Interstellar, there's very similar shots. Now I know that it's space and there's only limited things you can do with space and all of that in space, but like I was watching some of these things going, I think I've seen that in Interstellar, or I think I've seen that in 2001: A Space Odyssey. They were very similar. But it's kind of just a bit weird because 2001: A Space Odyssey, it was paid homage by Interstellar, and then kind of like First Man comes and it's like Interstellar and 2001: Space Odyssey. It's like a full-on like Inception kind of thing. It's just kind of wolf, but it's just kind of nice because you're watching it going, that's kind of a very similar shot. And Steven Spielberg kind of executively produced this, so it kind of was a bit like, okay, I kind of see, because he used to work a lot with Stanley Kubrick and stuff, so I thought like that kind of had probably an influence on it. Now, another thing I would say on reflection on First Man is that I was kind of sitting there in some of the scenes going, wow, I wish I saw this in IMAX, because some of the scenes are so powerful and would be like a lot more heightened and more cinematic in an IMAX cinema, like with the big screen and the sounds coming out. It would be a lot more powerful. But then I kind of got into some scenes and I was a bit like, you know what? There's not many scenes, kind of like the scenes that would look boring, well, not boring, but not as great in IMAX outweighs how many scenes would look so epic in IMAX. So it kind of a bit like, is it worth the money in the end? Because when you compare it to films like sort of Dunkirk and stuff, it was made for IMAX, so pretty much every single scene is epic and just made for IMAX. However, this just kind of seems a bit like only certain scenes are seen, like, should be seen in IMAX, but then the rest you're kind of like, oh, I could just go into a normal cinema sort of thing, and it kind of, is it worth the money sort of thing? But that's up to you guys, really, at the end of the day. So overall, I was slightly disappointed with this film. I'm going to be hyping it as much as I am with A Star Is Born. Obviously, I want Claire Foy to definitely be in Best Supporting Actress. I want her to get an Oscar nomination for that, because I do think she played that character very well for a character that could have just been one note. But anyway guys, I hope you go and see this film, and if you do, let me know what you thought about that, and you can do that by in the comments down below or on my social media. The links are down below in the description, so go and click on there, follow me, have a talk with me, discuss this film with me, because I know that I kind of don't have a popular opinion on this, because many people are going, oh my god, it's brilliant, what did you think about it? And I'm like, wait for my review, you know, because I feel like I'm gonna be killed or something. Yeah, that's why I haven't made a Venom video yet, because I don't want to be killed by people if I say it's good or if I say it's bad. It's kind of like a double-ended sword right now. But anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it here. I will see you for another review soon, hopefully. It depends really what I'm going to do, because college is getting a little bit more heightened now. So it's like, yay, studying. But yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye!